Hi everyone, good afternoon, good morning. I'm going to cover, like I say, well, literally everything that you could possibly ever need to know about Portugal's Golden Visa this evening. I've got loads to cover, some latest kind of news updates as well, some good news with regard to processing times for visas, some developments on investment selection. I'll talk briefly around, of course, the process, the basics of the Golden Visa program as well. So for those that have just logged in for the first time, or maybe on the beginning of your adventure, setting sail to Portugal, I'll cover off, the program and its bare essentials as to who it's for, what it does, who can qualify, which family members can be added. And then, yeah, we'll have a look at the process, the current investment rules. I'll be giving you a rundown on everything that you need to know. But yeah, other than that, I think the numbers are settling down. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining. We'll make a start and looking forward to covering everything with you this evening. Just to briefly introduce myself, my name is Jason Swan. I'm one of the senior partners here at Holborn Assets. And Holborn are actually a wealth management practice, and we're one of the largest wealth management practices now in Europe. I'm sat here in a very cold, very wet, and slightly flooded Portugal down in the Algarve, where I've been for the past kind of 3 or 4 years now. And previous to Portugal, I was in Spain for 5 years in Malaga, which has been even worse over the past few weeks for flooding. There's been a very scary, kind of like an apocalyptic message sent out to everyone's phones over the past couple of days to warn of severe weather. So very worrying, having watched what's happened in Valencia and cars literally flowing down the road. Very strange scenes. But yeah, I'm down here in the south of Portugal. About 6 years back, Holborn Assets launched Holborn Passport. And Holborn Passport is a service dedicated to helping our clients achieve residency and citizenship by way of investment in many different countries all over the world. Myself being, of course, based here in Portugal, it is a very popular topic for me. I'm a financial planner by day, and I'm fully qualified and regulated to give financial advice on a number of topics when it comes to general money management and financial and retirement planning when moving into Portugal, and of course understanding the local tax laws. But yeah, the increasingly popular Golden Visa program is something I found myself talking about more and more and more, with some common questions coming up on a regular basis. So the webinars, of course, help answer a lot of those questions in the masses. Hopefully everyone will get something out of the presentation this evening. And yeah, to introduce Holborn, if you haven't spoken with us before, we offer an all-encompassing service to help you achieve the visa and, of course, the passport of your choice from the programs that we have to offer. We facilitate the whole process. All begins with, of course, you selecting the investment that best suits your requirements, followed by then applying for your tax numbers, which, of course, we will facilitate. We also will set up your bank account here in Portugal as well, which you will need before any investments can be made or any visa applications can be submitted. We'll collect all the documents, of course, that's required, things like marriage certificates, birth certificates, criminal record certificates, passports, proof of address, things like this. And over the first couple of months, we'll ensure everything is ready to go. Your hand will be held right throughout the process up until when we get the visas, and right throughout until we achieve your passport, should that be what you aim to achieve further down the line. If you get a chance, please do type my name into Google, do some due diligence, have a look at some of the recent awards that we have collected at what is the kind of industry's equivalent of the Grammys or the Oscars, whichever you prefer there, but also on Trustpilot as well. We have a great reputation as far as our existing client reviews as well. So yeah, other than that, without further ado, let's get stuck in. And like I say, if any questions pop up, please do feel free to drop them in the Q&A. I'll probably answer the majority of questions naturally as we go through. But if I miss anything, let me know, and I'll be sure to come back to it before we finish. Okay, so sorry, before we jump onto Portugal, if you are just thinking of moving country or moving towards a new citizenship, Portugal is one and the most popular program that we offer. But if you're not necessarily set on Portugal, There are other routes into Europe. There are other international programs as well. For any questions on any other routes globally, please ask, and happy to cover those off on a one-to-one basis. And of course, keep an eye out for future webinars as well on those topics. Okay, so the Portugal Golden Visa, what is it? It is a 2-year visa. It's kind of a VIP pass for anyone looking to live, work, or simply retire to Portugal. It is the most popular route to Europe for overseas nationals, and it is very much seen as the gateway to Europe due to the very short amount of time by comparison to other countries to achieve a passport. But the most unique factor is that you can get a European passport without physically having to move to Portugal. The minimum stay is only 2 weeks every 2 years. And whereas all other visa routes require you to become tax resident in Portugal, the Golden Visa has just a 2-week requirement in every 2 years. So it is particularly popular for those that are thinking maybe not about moving to Portugal full time or moving straight away, but thinking of maybe a plan B for some point in the future, maybe thinking of their retirement plan, often thinking about family requirements for education in Europe. Healthcare reasons comes up quite a lot as well. Of course, Portugal has one of the best rated healthcare systems anywhere in the world. So access to state healthcare is a big plus. But we'll come on to those shortly, but it's a 2-year visa. You can renew the visa as many times as you like. But once 5 years has passed from the date that you apply for the visa, we can then submit your application for citizenship. And when your passport comes through, it's effectively the same as 27 passports coming through all at the same time, because you can then live in any of the EU states without any restrictions thereafter. Kind of like I could do before Brexit. And as a British citizen, as part of the EU, I had that freedom to travel and live wherever I like. Unfortunately, though, I'm in the same basket as everyone else now, having to apply for visas should I wish to move to another EU country. So that's kind of the treasure at the end of the rainbow. So yeah, it works very well. You know, even if you're not planning to move to Portugal, you just want to have a European passport ready for the future. You can do that without having to move there in the meantime. The only other country in Europe that allows you to get a European passport without physically becoming tax resident and living in another country is Malta. The difference with Malta is that it requires over €1 million to achieve the passport, but it can be done in about 14 months. So it's much faster than Portugal, but unless you cannot wait for Portugal, then there isn't a lot of it's difficult to justify that additional investment in Malta unless, again, you want it done in 14 months or you want to live in Malta. Otherwise, Portugal ticks all the boxes. It has the lowest investment point, and yeah, just 5 years to apply for a passport. If we compare that to just next door in Spain, for example, to get the Golden Visa through Spain, you have to wait 10 years, and you have to live in Spain for those 10 years in order to apply for a passport. So it's a much different kind of process, if you like, to citizenship. So there you go. That is the Golden Visa. That's what it's there for. As a Golden Visa holder, you benefit from all that you would have as a Portuguese citizen. Other than you cannot vote and you cannot run for president. Other than that, you can do whatever you like. You can study. You can get access to the healthcare system. You can just sunbathe in one of many very nice beaches. I'm down in the south, down in Albufeira, down right at the south, in the best part of Portugal, in my humble opinion, where it's slightly warmer, the beaches are slightly nicer, but and it's a much more relaxed kind of quite a relaxed way of living, really, in the Algarve. It's quite quiet compared to, of course, Lisbon in the main city centre. Also compared to Porto up in the north, again, a lot more cosmopolitan, a lot more going on in these hubs compared to down in the Algarve. But yeah, of course, you're not going to go far wrong anywhere in Portugal, in my opinion. I've been to many different places around the world. I've lived in a few different places, and for me, Portugal has everything that you could ever need. As to where you end up in Portugal is really a personal preference, I suppose. But yeah, any questions I can help with on, yeah, just generally living in Portugal, happy to oblige. But there you go, little geography lesson, which I didn't do very well in geography actually. I'm very good at maths, not very good at geography, but there you go. That's everything that you need to know on Portugal. So, how do we qualify for this golden visa? Now, the rules have changed quite regularly over recent years. And the latest change was at the end of 2023, when the option to invest into property was removed from the criteria. And it was actually, the program entirely was due to close right until November last year, which caused a lot of panic. But right at the last moment, the government decided not to close the Golden Visa program, but instead just to remove property from the criteria to try and curb how quickly house prices were increasing. It doesn't seem to have had much of an impact, which I thought was pretty obvious at the time. But nonetheless, property is not an option, but there are still 5 routes to qualify. Number one, you can set up a business in Portugal and employ a number of 10 staff. It's not the kind of thing you would do simply to get a visa, but if you do have plans to expand an existing business, maybe into Portugal, that may be an added benefit to then apply for the visa on the back of that. You can also donate to the government a sum of 250 or 500,000 euros if you are feeling generous, and you will be rewarded with a golden visa. And for those that don't want to set up a business or to give their money away, you have the option of making an investment, which can be done by way of an investment fund, as of a certain criteria in line with the government's requirements, or a venture capital fund, or thirdly, you can invest into the share capital of an existing Portuguese company on the basis that that company creates or maintains a certain number of jobs as a direct result of your investment. The vast majority of applications at the moment are being done through some form of investment or venture capital fund, and we'll come on to that shortly. But ultimately, yeah, it's just a case of choosing which route is best for you. And once you've made that decision, we will then begin the process of applying for tax numbers and your bank accounts and get you on your way to Portugal. So there you go. There's the routes. Couple of quick news flashes. Anywhere you type in Portugal Golden Visa on the internet right now, it talks about delays to processing, big wait times, that's kind of plagued the excitement of applying for the Golden Visa somewhat over recent years. Back in 2021, there was a period of time where the law changed between what type of property that was permissible, and the online portal crashed. The online visa portal, very cliche Portuguese, but the online system couldn't adapt to the law change. And there was a 3-month period of chaos where applications were lost. There were people waiting that were sent to the back of the queue, and yes, in some real bad examples, people have been waiting up to 3 years to achieve the visa. In the main, it's got much better since that point. The government's really working hard now to reduce that backlog. And in particular, there's been 2 law changes this year to reflect that. The first of all, well, the most recent is this one here. And the government announced last month that, I'm just going to jump screens for this one as well, but the government has now announced a special task force has been assigned to clear all pending applications for the Golden Visa and to conclude all applications by the 2nd of June 2025, which is great news for everybody that is currently waiting for a visa or, of course, looking to get involved and apply for one. But there's a clear objective set now to clear that backlog by the 2nd of June, which is great news. And for those that are now looking to get involved with the program, we can safely say that for new applications, we can expect a processing time of between 6 to 9 months, which is much better than previous wait times have been. If anyone wants a copy of this document, please feel free to ask, and I'll send it to you for some bedtime reading. Really exciting stuff, but if you don't want to read all the detail, you can just take my word for it for now. So that's good news. Other than that, also earlier this year, well, actually quite recently, the law has now been confirmed that the 5 year that you need 5 years that you need to wait to submit your passport application now begins from when you submit the application for the visa, as opposed to when you receive the visa. Which again, great news. So even no matter how long the visa takes to get now, it will still be a maximum of 5 years to apply for your passport. So which kind of relieves some of the pressure from the government this year, but a bit of reassurance for those again waiting currently and those looking to start the process in the near future. So all good news. Last year was all bad news. It was all this was changing, this is closing, but this year no bad law changes, just a couple of nice things to look forward to. Okay, so next up, this is kind of my snapshot, if you like, on the current thresholds of capital that are required to qualify for each of those categories that we just looked at. Now, the donation route. So this doesn't include setting up a business. That's more about employing staff and building a business. But as far as an investment or a donation, as I mentioned before, a donation can be done with as little as 250,000 euros, and investments of different kinds can be made from 500,000 euros. So that still remains, but there are ways in which you can qualify for the program with less than those sums of your own capital. And what I mean by that, there has recently been a provider now that is able to offer finance of actually willing to lend investors the full 500,000 euros for 7 years for a cost of 168,000 euros. Now, although that is still a big cost, it is a lot lower than a donation of 250. And for those that are looking to get in at the lower price point and minimize the capital required, the 168,000 option is a great alternative to the donation at 250. However, if you're not wanting to lose money or give money away, of course, the option is to make an investment. All investment routes must be a minimum of 500,000 euros. As of literally today's date, I must put a little asterisk on this announcement at this moment in time, because I think this particular option that we're talking about now may be subscribed come next week. However, as of right now, it is possible to invest and have an upfront return rather than an annual interest of 101,000 euros, which means that you can actually use that towards the 500. It's going to get all the profits now of 101. You add 399, and then the investment is made of 500,000. There is also a loan facility, if needed, of 74,000. So you can actually invest and make a profit and cover the cost of the passports and then some with as little as 325,000 euros. But again, please note, very little tiny asterisks on those two options. In the main, like I say, 250 and 500,000 is what is needed. Any questions on those, please do drop them in. I know I'm kind of flying through. I've got loads to cover, so excuse me if I'm going at haste, but some basics. So who qualifies for the Golden Visa? Super easy to understand this one. There's 4 rules. Rule number 1, as long as you don't already have an EU passport, that is the first box ticked. If you have a clean criminal record, that is tick number 2. Number 3, of course, make an eligible investment in line with the government's requirements. And number 4, it's the worst rule. It's a horrible thing to have to do, but you've got to come to Portugal on a holiday for at least 14 days at some point in the next 2 years. That's it. Like I say, you do not need to change your tax residency. You do not need to move to Portugal, but you do need to make sure you have that time aside to spend at least 14 days in the country. There's no other restrictions or requirements. There's no age restrictions, income requirements, savings requirements, as you will find with other visa options. Like I say, it's literally a VIP pass as long as you tick those 4 boxes. As far as family members, there is one main applicant, okay, and that main applicant can add as many family members as they so wish as part of the same investment and the same application, as long as those family members are either their spouse, unmarried or married is fine, Same-sex couples is fine also, or parents above the age of 65 can automatically be included and deemed dependent. If parents are younger than 65, we may be able to still add them as long as we can prove dependency. But also children can be included up to the age of 21 automatically, or again, older than 21 if we can prove that they are still within further education of some kind. So we can provide an enrolment certificate to include children above age 21. And there's other financial options that we can show as well. But in the main, you want to try and get as many people on there as you can. Everyone gets the visa, everyone gets access to Europe, everyone gets access to the healthcare, everyone gets access to the education, and everyone gets a passport. Don't know if I already said that one, but in case I didn't, everyone gets the passport. And yeah, it makes sense. I think still to this date, the most number of people we've got on one application is 13 people, all in one go. We had stepchildren, step parents, and big family. It's a great value for money in that occasion. Again, any questions on that? I'll come back to you shortly. I can note the questions coming in there. Thank you for those that have been submitted so far. I will be sure to make sure we come back to those before we finish. A brief overview on the process, very busy slide. Don't worry too much about this. Just know that as part of our service, we facilitate right from A to Z as far as achieving the visa. So we facilitate all the different moving parts. It's all encompassing. You have myself personally, and you have my team that will be facilitating the whole transaction with regard to setting up tax numbers, bank accounts, speaking to the investment managers, speaking to the bank managers, speaking to the tax office. We'll be there to accompany you on the day of your biometrics as well. Which is not something to look forward to when you do have to come to Portugal. It's always a very soul-destroying day dealing with AIMA, but you will have us there on the day to help with translation and to try and keep you entertained as best as we can. But as that is the only time that you need to physically come into Portugal, which won't be until at least 6 months after we submit your application. The tax numbers are done within a matter of days. The bank account that we set up depends on individual circumstances, but in the main, we'll aim to get that done within kind of 4 to 6 weeks. Over, I would say between 8 to 12 weeks currently will allow us enough time to get everything set up, get all the documents collected, and of course, for you to transfer the funds to your new Portuguese bank account to enable you to make the investment for us to then make the application to AIMA. The visa application is submitted online, and that is when the 5-year clock then begins to tick until we can apply for your passport. And we then wait for the biometrics appointment, and then there, once that happens, you will then receive the visa. That's it. The visa is then, like I say, a good time frame now. 6 to 9 months is what we are targeting from start to finish to have the visa in hand. And that is the point. That is the point at which you have a visa. You are not a citizen at that point. You're a visa holder. You're a golden visa holder. And you will then have full rights from that point to then spend as much time within Portugal, work in Portugal, not work in Portugal, but your rights to remain will be intact. However, those then looking to move towards citizenship, okay, so it'll take up to 3 months to submit the application. Here I've got kind of 12 to 18 months to receive the visa, but again, our budget now at 6 to 9 months in order to receive the visa. That will then last for 2 years. So in approximately 3 years from now, we would do the first renewal. Okay, we renew for a further 2 years, taking you up to year 5. And in year 5, on the basis that you have learnt some Portuguese, we can then apply for your passport. Again, as long as you've not been arrested as well for anything, and you've got a clean criminal record still, you'll be good to go. On the Portuguese lessons, you'll be interested to know now that you don't have to take a test. The more affordable way is to study and take an A2 level exam. But for those that don't fancy the idea of taking a test, you can now pay a little bit more. It is more expensive, but there is now an option to study for a minimum amount of time, 150 hours to be precise, and you can get the certificate that you need for the passport without the need to take a test. So either way is fine. But on that note, that's it really. That's it. We get the passport, and when we get the passport, mission complete. We have then full rights to live and work in any European country. For some people, we take for granted visa-free travel globally as well, but there'll be some people listening in that don't have a first world passport that will also then benefit from visa-free travel to over 190 countries around the world. So yeah, that's it. That is all. That is mission done. That is the program. That's how the Golden Visa works then towards the citizenship program. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to I'm tempted to do a few questions, but I think some of the questions may be answered with some of the following slides. So allow me to cover off a few more slides, and then we'll be finishing shortly and jump into some questions. Let's get stuck in. So investment rules, do's and do nots. To qualify for the Golden Visa, the investment fund that you choose must meet the following rules. Number one, the fund must be regulated in Portugal by the Portuguese Commission, which is referred to as the CMVM. The fund may not directly or indirectly invest into any kind of real estate, which is a rule that was incorporated at the end of last year. And the fund must invest at least 60% of its money into Portuguese assets or into Portugal. So, for example, you could not have a Portuguese fund that tracks the US stock market, for argument's sake, nor could you have a US fund that invests into Portugal. It must be regulated in Portugal and invest into Portugal. And of course, the minimum, as we talked about, is 500,000 euros to be invested, and the investment needs to be kept for the duration until the passport has been issued. Any breaks in the investment may jeopardize the visa and in turn the passport application. So it's important not to choose an investment that matures after 3 years, for example, because you'd be in a difficult position thereafter. So they're the rules. That's it. You can choose any fund that you like, any fund manager that you will, and as long as the fund meets that criteria, we're good to go, and we can start the process for your visa application. And just some quick tips from me, pretty obvious things here, but of course, when investing in Portugal, if like me, you value security of capital, Portugal is not the first country that you would perhaps look to invest into without the need for a golden visa. Portugal certainly has improved the financial system, and is still not quite as robust and as not as robust as the likes of the US and the UK, but it's getting much better. But the first thing that you should always be wary of when choosing your investment is to make sure that you have a very high level of security for your capital, first and foremost, because if you lose that capital, the golden visa then becomes a very expensive route to Portugal. So just be mindful of what you're investing into. There's different ways that you can check the security of your capital. Where possible, try to find something that has some form of asset-backed security as well in the event of the fund going into liquidation or any issues. Try to stay clear of funds maybe that have just launched this year that don't really have much of a track record. And of course, there's other bits and pieces that comes with common sense, really. The length of time that your capital is tied up for, again, some investment funds that will qualify you for the visa also will tie the investment money up for a lot longer than you need it to be invested for. And you don't want to be restricted by those 4 rules that we just looked at for longer than you need to be. There are, of course, tens of thousands of investment funds in the universe to choose from, but only about 25 to 30 that meet the requirements of the Portuguese government. Other than that, yeah, check if the returns are guaranteed, if there's a fixed return, if the returns are performance-based. There are some venture capital funds that I've been asked for comments on that are very, very high risk, that maybe are subject to the success of one particular project. to the point where if the project goes well, it can be very profitable. But if the investment goes wrong, sorry, the project goes wrong, there is a genuine chance of losing the entire 500,000 euros. So, just be mindful of these things. If you are from the US, be mindful of the US reporting requirements as well. As a US citizen, not all funds are particularly friendly for US citizens. And where you can, try and look out for additional incentives as well. Some funds may offer free legal fees. They may offer, complimentary stays in Portugal for when you need to do your minimum stay. And yeah, when we have one-to-one discussions, I'll always kind of give access for you to see the latest fund directory, and you can kind of see how the funds compare. But when you're doing your due diligence, just again, some things to be mindful of. Okay, other than that, you can invest into any sector you like. These are the kind of the more common, more profitable. Depends on the investment as to whether they're profitable, but some of the more prominent investment sectors within the country. And other than that, I've kind of highlighted here some of the bigger fund managers within the country. These are, they're all fund managers that offer funds to qualify for the program. But of course, they vary. And in total, as of right now, in the directory, there's around 25 to 30 different funds to choose from. And they, of course, vary in all shapes and size. Some are very low risk, some more adventurous, some incredibly high risk. Some with lower returns than others. Time periods, as I mentioned before, anything from no time period at all to up to 14 years. Setup fees, some funds can be very expensive. Funds vary from no setup fee at all to 3% as a maximum. Annual management fees, again, from 0 to 3% per year. More adventurous investment funds, equity-based funds, venture capital funds, some target in excess of 15% per year, of course, which is entirely performance-based. So, it's down to you to assess the past performance and, to look at what that fund is likely to achieve moving forward. But with more risk comes potentially higher reward. If, like most of my clients, find the thought of sending €500,000 to a foreign country stressful enough, you might not want to get involved with tracking the Portuguese stock market, for example, or investing into Portugal's next theme park or movie production, things like this. So instead, you might choose to have something that has a fixed return. And for something of low risk, you would expect around 4% per year, which is still not too bad. But other than that, yeah, where you can find asset-backed funds for additional security. And yeah, other than that, during our Zoom meetings, as always, of course, we'll be talking about the program and, things like how many family members to be included, and go through the costs of what's involved in the program. And ultimately, you can access the fund directory, and then, you can choose which one is your favorite. As a couple of examples, there's one, like I said, this one, please take with a bit of a pinch of salt from next week, but currently you can take an upfront return of €101,000, allowing just 399,000 from you as the investor, with an investment of 500 being made to qualify for the visa. Has a guaranteed exit in year 6 of 500,000. In its simplest form, you have 399 that goes in. 500,000 is then paid back out from year 6. You have asset-backed security with a tangible asset held as collateral whilst you're invested in the fund. And you also have your accommodation paid for your minimum stay each year, which is a nice to have. Probably not something that would influence a decision by itself, but a nice additional incentive. If you want to go more adventurous and choose an equity fund, for example, there are many different equity funds to choose from. One in particular, as a typical Portuguese equity fund, is one that was founded back in 2012. It's actually with Portugal's largest asset manager, with over €1 billion under management. Capital required just a normal 500,000. You then have an annual return paid rather than an upfront fixed return. The fund invests into a number of different sectors within the country, and it targets returns between 10 to 14% per year, and with a track record achieving over 15% per year on average over the past kind of 5 or 10 years. So there are some more adventurous funds out there, and like I say, it's just a case of choosing, the investment that is best suited for you. And those that are not too fussed about the investment, but just wish to do the financing option or the walkaway option, however you wish to refer to it, you can simply pay a cost of 168,000. Somebody else will invest the 500,000 euros on your behalf. You have zero investment exposure, and yeah, very, very simple. Just one upfront payment of 168,000, and that is it. No further interest to pay, no investment capital. You do still have things like your legal fees and the government fees for the visa, but as far as the investment, it's just 168, and that's done. That is the minimum amount of capital that's needed to get the visa. Just be mindful that that again is a cost rather than an investment. But of course, 168,000 does allow you to keep another 300 odd thousand in the bank, I suppose, which has its benefits. Other than that, I will finish before we jump into some questions on, of course, always seek quality advice. It's no coincidence that you have a very handsome photo of me on the screen there with slightly less hair. I won't bore you with the story as to why I have less hair at that point, but of course, I have now done over 200 applications just in the last 2 years alone. So any questions about the program, please do ask. I'd always encourage you to type my name into Google. However, watch some of my recent presentations. But of course, for any questions that you have, and for more detail on anything that we've covered this evening, drop me an email. If you do want to speak on a one-to-one basis, you're very welcome to do so. I can share with you my calendar. If you're able to take a picture of the screen right now, you can also scan a picture of the QR code to access my diary. But other than that, I think I've done pretty well there. We're kind of 40 minutes in. I've covered everything that you could possibly ever need to know about the Portugal Golden Visa. So thank you for listening. I hope that was helpful. And yeah, we've got a bit of time now to go through any questions as well. So yeah, let's get stuck in. Okay. Hi, Jason. Can I download your slide deck presented today? You can't download the slideshow as such, but I can send to you as good as. Of course, there are different downloads I can send to you, including the full guide to the Portugal Golden Visa. And yeah, everything that you need to know. If you want to go through things like personalized cost illustrations, depending on how many family members that you want to include, we can do that on the screen. You can book a call in, and yeah, we can go through any detail and go through any questions that you have. But yeah, just let me know, Jason. Drop me an email, and I'll send to you some bedtime reading in the meantime. Hi there, Dave. Can you affirm assist with New Zealand? I understand a similar type of program may exist there. Good question, Dave. I think we could probably help with New Zealand. It's not a program that we commonly talk about, but yeah, we have many international programs. If not the New Zealand Golden Visa, there may be another Golden Visa that gives you access to New Zealand. So yeah, again, drop me an email, say hello. Happy to do some brainstorming with you on that topic. Hi there, Jason. 3 Jasons in the room today. Do you have to transfer the money once the visa is approved or beforehand? You make the investment, Jason, before you receive the visa. And as part of the application, we have to evidence that you hold a valid investment in line with the government's requirements. But the application rate is very straightforward. We have done now over 2,000 applications for the program. We've done over 10% of the world's applications for Portugal. We have an exemplary success rate, and the rules are very simple. So, there will be a pre-assessment by the lawyers. If there's any possibility as to why you may be declined, you will know that way before you part with any money or make any investments. But on the basis that you have a clean criminal record, you hold the eligible investment, and you don't already have an EU passport, you'll be good to go. That answers your question. Okay, Jason. Now they're anonymous. What does the asterisk mean? Slash the investment options are subscribed. Okay, yes. So I was just saying that that particular investment, there are very there's only a certain number of allocations available in that particular fund that I referenced to, and I expect literally maybe by tomorrow or very early next week that it may be fully subscribed. So all I mean by that is that it will no longer be available from next week, and therefore just take the 325 and the 399 with a bit of a pinch of salt, because it may just be the normal 500,000 thereafter. But as of right now, we're okay. But just in full transparency. Heather Dunner. The digital nomad visa only requires renting an apartment or purchasing a home. How is that different from a golden visa? So the digital nomad visa is a visa route, Donna, for those that are looking to move to Portugal full time and can commit to Portugal full time for the 5 years. And you basically need to prove the address basically that you're referring to. You need to have an address of some kind to apply for the visa and to prove that you are living in Portugal. So the difference between that and the golden visa is that you don't have to live in Portugal for the golden visa. You don't need an address in Portugal. You apply from your home country, and you only need to be here for 2 weeks every 2 years. But for all other visa routes, including the digital nomad visa, you have to be here for at least 8 months of the year, every year. So it's just, I say there's pros and cons to both, but it just depends on which visa is the most suitable. But hopefully that's clear. That's okay. Hi there, Anonymous. Do the 14 days need to be consecutive? No, they don't need to be consecutive. It may be easier for them to be consecutive, but yeah, if you want to break that up into weekend trips or maybe 2 1-week holidays, that's fine, as long as we can prove you have been here for at least 14 days during that 2-year period. You are good to go. Hi, Said. Hope you're well. Language exam or any other option? Language exam or any other option? I'm not too sure if that's a question there, Said. You might have to clarify. But yeah, just drop me an email. We'll come back to that. There are different options with the language exam, or like I say, the minimum study. If you don't want to do the exam, you can do the minimum study of 150 hours, which is also fine to get the passport. But there's no language exam for the visa, only for the passport. Okay, hi there, Anonymous. Could you expand on the option that's available for US citizens to use the IRA/401k funds? Very short summary. It can be done. It's something that's been done more commonly since the beginning of this year. We don't have a lot to do with the US side. Of course, we understand the process, and it consists of self-directed IRA in the US, the incorporation of a US LLC, of which you are the shareholder of, and of course the formation of a Portuguese LLC as well. All put together allows the investment monies to remain within the US retirement account for US tax purposes as an alternative to physically withdrawing from the retirement account. That may carry some benefits, but there are costs involved to do that as well. So for you, it is really an assessment as to whether or not it makes sense to do that. Like I say, we don't get involved too much on the US side, but as part of our service, we're very happy to introduce you to the company that's helped a number of our clients in the US, and they'll talk you through what can and cannot be done as far as the retirement accounts and what's involved to do that. And then we'll do everything that's needed on the Portuguese side. But hopefully that helps. Hi, Said. Any quota allocated for Golden Visa or any possibility to close down this program in the near future? Total processing time. No, not that I'm aware of. The Golden Visa program there's no quota. It's unlimited. Yeah, it's unlimited. Obviously, at some point it will close. I can almost hang my hat on the fact that it will close in the next few years. As to when that will be, I don't know. It came very close to closing last year. The government's very concerned about increasing house prices, which is kind of no longer related to the Golden Visa. But the pressure at the moment really is from the EU on all countries that are issuing European passports, because previously it has been a source of corruption and people come into Europe that Europe doesn't really want here. But at the moment, it's in play. Yeah, it's in play. It's not going anywhere anytime in the immediate future. There's no talk of program being closed. So you're okay, Said. You're okay. Don't panic. Do I pay tax on individual income inside or outside Portugal, or exempted for some years? Okay, very good question. I want to make this crystal clear. This always comes up, but the Golden Visa or achieving citizenship does not change your tax status, which sounds strange often when coming from the US, because the US is one particular country which, well, it's one of two countries, I think, in the world that taxes its citizens rather than its residents. So if you hold a US passport and you live somewhere else, you still get taxed by the US. Portugal, however, only taxes its residents. So you can get a passport without necessarily paying taxes in Portugal. And you can get a visa without paying taxes in Portugal. Your tax status will only change when you physically spend more than 6 months of the year here. But of course, the Golden Visa is designed where you don't need to spend 6 months of the year. So if you don't do that, you will not become tax resident. And when you get the passport, again, unless you spend over 6 months of the year here, you will not be liable to Portuguese taxes. The only thing that can be taxed during that time is any income that you have from Portugal. But other than that, no, unless you live in Portugal, nothing will make you liable for Portuguese taxes. Hopefully that's nice and clear. Congratulations on your wedding. Thank you much, Said. Do I look different now? Do I look different with this ring on my finger? Do I look more stressed? Some people say I look more relaxed now. Not doing all the planning that's for the past year. But yeah, thank you much. Thank you, Jason. Thank you. Okay, please advise on the tax percentage of income from Portugal or outside while holding the Golden Visa. Okay, so I think I've covered that one off. So there is no, let me just make sure I've understood the question. Please advise the tax percentage on income from Portugal or outside. Okay, so from Portugal, 28% flat tax from within Portugal. Outside of Portugal, there is no tax unless you live here. If you do live here and you become tax resident here, which you do not need to do for the Golden Visa, to be clear, but if you in the future move to Portugal full time, you will then pay tax on your worldwide income. Tax overall in Portugal is quite favourable. It also has tax treaties in place with the majority of countries around the world to avoid any double taxation. But yeah, for that conversation side, better to have a financial planning conversation, I would say, which we can do on a one-to-one basis. When you become tax resident, again, nothing changes as a Golden Visa holder. But when you get to that point of moving here full time, I will do a pre-move review with you. We'll have a look at your current assets and your current income. I'll let you know what you need to do before you become tax resident in Portugal. And of course, I'll help you get set up and up to date with the Portuguese laws as well. Okay, so hopefully that was okay. Hopefully that answered that question, all right? 7 days per year times 5 years is required for the Golden Visa, or the possibility to complete 35 days all in one go. It is per visa, so per 2 year visa period, you must evidence 14 days of a stay. So unfortunately not. You cannot do all 5 years in one go. You need to do sets of 2 years, 14 days at a time. Good question. Good question. Okay, super. So they're the live questions. Thank you for those. I'll go into some of the questions that were submitted before we started. If anyone wants to add any questions in, feel free to do so before we finish up shortly. Alrighty, so okay, so we've covered that one. Portuguese taxes on retirement income accounts in the USA. Okay, hi there, Jason. I think we may have spoke briefly earlier. I'm not even going to venture into that one, but as far as I suppose Portuguese taxes, Portuguese taxes, I can pass comment on. The Portuguese taxes, as we mentioned before, on retirement accounts from the US or any accounts from outside of Portugal will only become relevant when you move to Portugal. Portugal will not tax you anything at all if you only have the visa or if you only have the passport. You have, like I say, you have to be in Portugal for over 6 months of the year before any tax changes. At that point, when you move to Portugal, we'll do an assessment on your income from overseas and worldwide. And then, of course, I can provide you with some personalized advice at that time. But for now, don't worry about any tax changing as, like I say, when you apply for the visa. Okay. Hi there, Ellen. I'd like to have details about medical care in large cities and mid-sized cities in Portugal. Okay, I could probably send you some information on that one, Ellen, for general healthcare in Portugal. Yeah, we can help with that. I don't think it really varies between cities, though. You know, you'll generally have a provider of the medical care, which will remain the same regardless of where they're based or where you're based. But yeah, if you want any particular information on that, just drop me an email. Okay, Johnny Depp. Pretty sure Johnny Depp isn't on the call. That's Vincent who hosted the webinar. Very good. Hi there, Masadaman. Hopefully I got that pronunciation okay. I'd like any visa anywhere, please. Okay, well, yeah, we've covered the Golden Visa off tonight. Masadaman. But yeah, any questions on what we've covered, give me a shout. But yeah, just the Golden Visa to cover for this evening. Hi there, Amelia. I hope you got lots out of the web presentation this evening. Hi there, Colin. We've bought a place in Lagos, and I'm interested in knowing if short-term rentals are coming back. Okay, that again, not particularly Golden Visa specific, Cal, but yeah, if you want to talk on a one-to-one basis, give me a shout. Yeah, again, any financial planning requirements you have or Golden Visa requirements, we can talk through. Hi there, Bilkis. Okay, yeah, so you've already submitted your application, still not been approved. Yeah, okay, so I suppose for updates on your application, Bilkis, I'd just advise you to speak to your attorney on that one. Hi there, David. Interested in the D7 route, intrigued on the investment options also. I have a few friends who are considering options following the election. Okay, yeah, great, David. Well, hopefully I've covered what you need to know on those. I've not covered the D7 in too much detail this evening, but I would say, maybe if you have some friends considering the program, yeah, we could do a group Zoom call maybe, and we can go through everything together. So just drop me an email on that one or book some time in. Hi there, Annabella. I'm the first generation US born, seeking to transition to Portugal. What is my best track? Okay, well, that depends on a few other factors, Annabella. Maybe the Golden Visa, maybe not. Well, drop me a message, and I'm happy to go through that. We shall do some brainstorming. And hi there, Saeed. Yeah, okay, so we covered some questions there as well. Wanted to talk about the 168 option. And the total cost. Yeah, so of course we went through that earlier this week, didn't we, Saeed? So hopefully I think we've covered that now, but of course, yeah, let's catch up later in the week and we can always run through any other questions you have. Great. Well, we've timed this to perfection, 2 minutes to 6 here in Portugal, and we've covered loads of questions. If anyone has any last minute entries to throw in, feel free. If you want to talk more on a private one-to-one basis. There's no cost to book in some time. I think I have some availability from Tuesday onwards next week. Other than that, yeah, I hope everyone found the webinar helpful. Thank you, Jason. Very informative. Good. I'll follow up with a consult. Great. Yeah, super, Jason. I look forward to it. I think I may have just seen you pop up on my screen actually to book in. Great. Anonymous, thank you for the information on the Golden Visa. Do you offer any assistance with the digital nomad visa? Not personally, but I can introduce you to somebody that will be happy to help. Does that need an offer of a job based in Portugal? So again, I won't cover too much on the digital nomad. For any questions, drop me an email and I shall introduce you to a colleague to assist on that topic. Hi Saeed, all the points we've covered, great. We'll reach out to you soon. No problem at all, Saeed. Have a nice evening or good morning, good afternoon, maybe. How do we access your appointment calendar? So my appointment calendar is on the screen as we speak. So for appointments, just scan the QR code. You can literally pick up your phone and take a photo. You'll see it go right to my diary, right up there with the latest tech these days. Or the simplest way is just to drop me an email with your availability and I'll send you a link that you can click. Or just let me know when you're free and we'll book that in. We'll just book that in. Nice and easy. Thank you much.